Sarah Sanders and Mike Huckabee. We're coming to you, Mike, but hold up.
No, the president has said he's at war with the fake news media. We can agree that this hostile dynamic doesn't serve the American people. We've heard what he and the administration feel the media should be doing or what they're doing wrong, but what do you think is on the responsibility of the administration and people like yourself to help on your end to mend these fences?
Yeah, I think going back, you look at every administration, you're always going to have a little bit of friction between the press corps and the White House. We've certainly seen that escalate in this administration. I think that there is certainly responsibility on both sides. We have to be forthcoming. We have to be honest. That's our obligation to the American people. But it's also journalist obligation to present facts, not opinions. It's the American people's ability to get to take those facts and decide where they want to come down on an issue. To me, a good news story is if all the facts are presented and you don't know which side the author of that story is on. Right. And I think we need to get back to a little bit less editorial comments from the media and a little bit more fact delivering to the American people.
But my clarification here is that when he refers to the media, that's a massive group of people. Technically, we're media, there are journalists. I feel that by specifying when there's something wrong, I think that is a responsibility of the administration, because the problem is you have an American people that are now distrusting, because this has been a consistent talking point of his and the administration's. It's dangerous because the media is here for a purpose. It has a very important historical role. And when people that don't know the difference in these mediums are sitting out there going, oh, medium, fake news, you are kind of taking away a check and balance of society.
It's also very dangerous for the media not to live up to the responsibility that they have, and that is to actually present factual information.
But
I mean, a lot of times I sit in a room.
When one person does it, I think you need to say, we read this article, and that is problematic, because there are like thousands of us, and we can only do our part individually. So when you call out all of us each time, we take the fall for when we do backup research and we do present information, you're making us all take that fall.
Well, and I think that goes both ways. I mean, the media often characterizes all Republicans, all conservatives, all Democrats. I think that happens certainly on both sides when you take those generalities, and that certainly, I think, is a give and take, not just from the administration, but also from the news media.
Is the media supposed to not report on the fact that 95% of what he says is a lie?
Well, that's... The problem with that, Joy, is that is you are doing exactly what we're talking about and pushing a false narrative.
No, it's not.
95% of what the president says is not a lie.
It's from PolitiFact, from Politico. It's not just the dreaded New York Times. It is other outlets that say it. 5% of his statements are true. 5%.
That's just it.
And I feel for you. I feel sorry for you that you have to go out and defend those lies every day.
And that has been documented. And so as the face of really the administration, what do you say to the American people when you have a boss that engages in untruths?
Well, I completely disagree with the fact that what you're saying is only 5% of that is true. I know that is simply not accurate, and I think that's one of the dangers that we have right now is we are pushing so many false narratives every day. We're creating false perceptions about the president and, frankly, inhibiting his ability to succeed. I think America should want him to succeed. He is the president whether they voted for him or not, and I think that we have to get behind
Yes,
we should be championing for his success, because his success
correct.
is America's success, and that's what we should all want.
But you also have to get somebody in the office who recognizes what the truth is. And that, I mean, because, and I will take you just to one point that we can all agree on. Where was President Obama born, and is he an American citizen?
I think this has been pretty well addressed.
Well, but this narrative, this is what I'm talking about. That's a narrative that went on forever and really he didn't clear it up until after he was in office. So there are those things that we could go back and forth with, but I think it would be helpful if he would stick to whatever he's just like last night he tweeted one thing and then he said something else the next morning and it's like come on, man. You know, it's a lot. It's a lot.
I don't think what happened yesterday, I disagree that was inconsistent messaging. The point of yesterday, you've got a very intense legal battle, and the timeline was not set by Donald Trump. It was set by the courts. A decision was forced to be made yesterday.
With DACA.
You have one of two choices. You can either let the courts decide, which means the program can end immediately, which I think the entire country has agreed that that's not a good thing, including the president, or you can take 6 months and you can force Congress to actually do their jobs. A lot of people are protesting Trump Tower. I think they should go protest the United States Capitol, because those are the people that have the ability to actually make laws,
and if he
and
had
they need
come
to
out,
step up and do their
If he had
job.
come out and not sent Jeff Sessions out, if he had come out, stood with you, stood next to you and said, this is just my opinion. If he had stood next to you and said, listen, Congress, you didn't act when you could have acted 4 years ago, 8 years ago. Now I'm demanding that you act. If he had stood with you and said that, I'd feel better. But Jeff Sessions didn't do it for me.
The first step was Jeff Sessions making the legal argument. When President Obama made this decision in 2012, he sent Janet Napolitano. He didn't go out himself, because that's the first step in the process. He sent the administrator that is responsible for carrying out that duty. That was Jeff Sessions' responsibility. The president put out a very lengthy statement. He'll be out publicly speaking today. There is a process that we're going through, and right now, the part of the process that we're in is for Congress. They've been on a 3-week vacation. They should be well rested. They should be ready.
They've been on a
They
3-week
should
vacation.
feel ready to come back and actually get something done.
Mike, you know, both the president and the vice president, I think, visited Texas to see the flooding and the devastation. And this is the first time I think we saw President Trump in that consoler-in-chief role. And many people felt better about that. The country has been so divided, and now we see more closeness. We see Americans being great. However, on the same day when this devastation is set to strike Texas, he pardons Arizona Sheriff Joe Arpaio. He says he pardons him on that day to get better ratings, since people would be watching hurricane coverage. Now, as a former governor, would you have chosen that particular moment to pardon arguably one of the most racist and racially profiling officials in our country?
I know Joe Arpaio. I do not agree that he's a racist. No, I do not agree.
He's lawless.
I don't.
Okay.
He's an
He
85-year-old
just plays one on
man,
TV.
and he has been a sheriff, and he has enforced the law in his county. But I think to your first point, which I hope
Several
that we
judges
can
disagree.
emphasize. Listen, we're living in a country where everybody disagrees, okay?
Fair.
I can't hardly find agreement within my own family sometimes.
Fair.
It's so divided and
Fair.
polarized. But what you also mentioned was this was a president who not only did the important job of standing up federal resources to assist in Texas, but then he got criticized for not showing enough empathy. He goes back, he hugs people, and then people are saying, we got to find something to hate this guy for. I mean, I'm just telling you, the man
cover
could,
was actually
he
really
could
good
take
on
a
We don't
drinking...
believe him because he lies so much. No one
But
believes
he also-
anything.
Take what he does.
That's the problem.
What he did in that hurricane relief is what's important. And what he did was ensure that every federal agency was fully engaged in helping those people, and then that he was giving attention to it on a personal level. But folks, look, there's so much Trump hate out here that if he took a drinking straw and sucked out every drop of flood water from Houston and spit it into the Gulf of Mexico, they would have said he should have spit it into the Indian Ocean.
I have to say to you, I have to say this to you. This is a gentleman who is now going to learn the cost of cutting all of these programs. Because these are the programs that we needed, and this is why we needed them. So he'll learn, he'll figure it out, because that's what every president does, right? That's what every president does. They figure it out. But I think he has not done himself a whole lot of good with some of the things he decided to do and how he started all of this. I think that is a lot of what's happening.
I actually think that's a great point that I agree with you. He's not looking to better himself. He's making decisions that I think better the American people. By making government... making government work more effectively and more efficiently and using resources in a more responsible manner, I don't think that's something that we should... and they're taxpayer dollars.
You know,
that should be looked at in a more...
We're going to go and come right back, and we're not. They're coming.
They're torching